This video is brought to you by the No Fear community.
With us today is Ade McCormack, a columnist for the Financial Times and founder of Ade Consulting. Ade, you have talked a lot about digital leadership. What is it exactly?
Digital leadership is a term that describes the need for all leaders, not just CIOs, but all leaders to understand IT and, more importantly, the outputs of IT, information and knowledge, and to harness that as an asset to, if you like, achieve the strategic imperatives. We're in a situation today whereby most senior executives are not digitally aware, particularly in established organizations, and we need to have greater digital leadership in the boardroom, so to speak. Of course, we have young upstart companies where the digital cowboys, so to speak, have built a business from the web outwards. They get it, no problem. But there's a hell of a lot of big organizations that have yet to wake up to the power of or information and knowledge as an asset.
At Ade, you have a focus on the chief information officers of corporations. Why is that such an important role?
It's an important role because it is the CIO is the linchpin between the user community and the IT industry. They are the front end of the IT industry. And today, in most cases, they are not appropriately skilled and capable to be digital leaders. They are more often IT managers rather than information leaders, so to speak. So I believe these guys need to be developed as a priority in order to have some digital leadership in the boardroom, in the senior management team, and in turn for that digital leadership capability to spread around the senior management team. So I feel that the biggest impact will be made by working on the CIO.
You have focused on bridging the gap between the IT professionals and the other forms of leadership in companies and corporations. How has that changed with the emergence of the so-called digital cowboys, as you mentioned, and more generally the PlayStation generation?
Well, the PlayStation generation tend to have better technology at home than they have at work. And because they're increasingly getting into the driving seat of determining where will I work, they will only go to places where the technology is at least of a standard that they're used to. Some organizations are saying, okay, bring your own technology in and self-manage it, so to speak. But essentially what we're seeing now with this new generation is that they are setting the terms and conditions of engagement in terms of work. So the power axis is moving to the employee, so to speak. The IT department has been under siege since it started, but it's now under greater siege than ever because it's lost control of the what technologies will we use agenda, and that's a bit of a nightmare for it.
One of the main themes in No Fear is that business leaders have to leave behind the old hierarchical command and control types of management and leadership for more transparent types of leadership. How does that resonate with what you just said about digital leadership?
Well, command and control essentially means that you have one or two thinkers and the rest are doers or implementers of the vision from the top. In big organizations in particular, that means decision making becomes very, very slow, and in an agile, dynamic, Darwinian, real-time, on-demand world, that just doesn't cut it, so to speak. So digital leadership essentially, in part, is about managing the information flows, managing the knowledge flows, how people communicate, how people collaborate. And if you don't understand collaboration, if you don't understand, the move from the power of me to the power of we, you're going to get left behind.
How would you advise companies to attract these digital cowboys, and especially how to keep them within their reach?
Well, the first thing to realize is that you as the employer are no longer in the driving seat. You have to charm these people into your organization. So at the very least, you better have some good toys for them to play with. And you need to give them scope, more or less, to do whatever they want, because they will only engage in their own terms. My generation would talk about work-life balance. You work hard and maybe have a little bit of time at the end of the day, maybe have a little bit of time at the end of your life, and you enjoy that. These guys are talking about work-life integration. They know they're going to be working later into the day and longer into their life, so they're only going to do the stuff that they really enjoy. And the fact is that there's a growing talent shortage means that they can increasingly demand the terms in which they engage. So again, these guys are in the driving seat, and HR departments need to realise that they are genuinely now getting into what is called talent management. They need to think like rock star agents and sports star agents in terms of how they acquire and retain the talent.
One of the phenomena you just described is called IT, shadow IT, which means that these young people tend to bring in their own toys and their own ways of work into the corporate workplace. Is that fundamentally a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it's, from an IT department perspective, it's not a good thing because they lose control. But from my perspective, IT is a dying industry. Technology is becoming less interesting, and the cloud is allowing that to be soaked up and handled by someone else. You know, we don't have a chief electricity officer anymore, so increasingly we should ask ourselves, do we really need a chief IT manager officer anymore? So I think it's more about it should be more about the outputs of the technology than the technologies themselves.
How do these new technologies, cloud and everything else, affect the way corporations are run?
Well, the cloud literally is going to change everything in terms of the ease at which you can outsource things, allowing you now to focus more on your core competencies. And in many cases, take any bank, take any airline, their core competencies are information management and brand management. Everything else can be outsourced. The planes, the bank buildings can be outsourced to someone else. So the cloud allows you to push more and more stuff out to other people, and it allows you to have a much more dynamic supply chain. So you can flex with the needs of your customers. So you might say we're moving from supply chain management to demand chain management, and the cloud makes that a lot easier.
You wrote a book called the E-Skills Manifesto for the European Commission. Could you please tell us a bit more about that?
Well, essentially, Europe needs to reflect on where it sits in terms of the global supply chain. And the way we are trending at the moment is towards, if you like, becoming irrelevant or obsolete. The power axis is changing. It's moving further east, and this equally applies to the US. And the name of the game here is not IT, it's innovation. But innovation today is often fueled by IT and information. And our education system in Europe is not supportive of, if you like, genuine knowledge workers. Most of the organisations in Europe are industrial organisations. Just because people are sitting in front of a PC thinking they're knowledge workers, they really are just organic extension to corporate cogs. And as soon as they can be automated, they will be automated. We need to move into organisations that, that use people to differentiate. And at this point in time, what we have now are people racing to create the most automated factory. So eventually driving people out of the organisation and who's got the best factory. Once everyone's got the best factory, then you have to differentiate yourself on your people. So now you start bringing in these digital cowboys, these kind of creative Michelangelo, types who are just basically unmanageable. And if you have a group of these people together, not necessarily in the same room or even the same continent, but you have the technologies to allow them to synaptically kind of bounce off each other and connect, then all sorts of amazing things happen.
Thank you very much.
This video is brought to you by the No Fear community.